Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to being well-informed. Today, we're jumping into some really fascinating ancient wisdom, looking at this recurring pattern in early Buddhist texts.
Yeah, we're exploring these discourses, the sutras, right?
Great.
From the Anguttara Nikaya. And what's really striking is how they keep organizing these, well, profound ideas into these neat little groups of five. It's almost like an ancient guide to listicles, but, for enlightenment.
Exactly. And these texts, often given in places like Savathi, they manage to boil down really complex principles, ethical, spiritual, into these lists. And they end up being surprisingly practical, actually. A guide to character, conduct, spiritual growth that still feels, well, relevant.
Right. So our mission today, I guess, is to figure out why five? Why does this number pop up so much across different topics? And what shortcuts, if any, do these ancient lists offer us for, handling life's challenges and finding well-being?
Oh.
Okay, let's unpack this. So first up, this idea of the ideal spiritual guide. Texts like Upasampadāvaggo, am I saying that right? Close enough, yes, that one. And Nisaya Sutta, Samthara Sutta. They lay out what's essential for someone to, say, ordain others or guide novices.
Okay, so what did they need? What were the must-haves?
They talk about the five perfected aggregates, asaka kantas. And asaka is key here. It means perfected or beyond training. Someone who's basically mastered these, not just good at them, but perfected.
Ah, okay, so what are they?
Well, first is perfected virtue, salakandana. So really high ethical standards, flawless conduct. Second, perfected concentration, samathikanana, deep focus, meditative stability. Third, perfected wisdom, pañcakanipāta, like a profound insight into how things really are.
Okay.
Fourth, perfected liberation, vimukti. This is complete freedom from all those mental defilements, the negativity. And finally, fifth, perfected knowledge and vision of liberation, vimuttinya dasana, which is like a direct experiential knowing of that freedom.
Wow, perfected. That word really hits differently than just good or strong. It's a very high bar, isn't it?
It is. It absolutely is.
Yeah.
It's presented as achievable, yes, but certainly aspirational for most. It sets a really high standard for spiritual leadership.
Yeah, I can see that. And even if you're not aiming to be a monk or a formal guide, those five, they feel like a powerful target for just inner excellence, right? For being reliable in your own life, maybe for others too.
Yeah.
It makes you pause and think, okay, how perfected am I in any of these?
Exactly. It's a kind of blueprint.
So if that's the ideal, what gets in the way? The texts must talk about obstacles too, right? The things that trip us up internally.
Oh, definitely. They get very specific about subtle forms of selfishness that hinder progress. The Maccārya Sutta introduces this term, Maccārya. It means avarice, or maybe stinginess is a better word. And it lists five kinds.
Okay, 5 kinds of stinginess. Let's hear them.
First, avarice regarding dwellings, avasamacharya. So clinging to your physical space, my spot, my room. Second, avarice regarding families or support bases, kulamacharya. Being possessive about your connections, your benefactors, maybe your social circle.
Like gatekeeping relationships.
Sort of, yeah. Third, avarice regarding gain or profit, abhamacharya. That's maybe more straightforward, hoarding wealth advantages. Fourth, avarice regarding praise or reputation, Pañcakanipāta, really guarding your image, your social standing.
Right, that one feels very modern too.
It does, doesn't it? And the fifth one is avarice regarding the Dhamma or teachings, Dhammacharya. Basically being unwilling to share spiritual knowledge or insights you might have.
And the text actually says that last one, stinginess with the teachings, is the most despicable. That's strong language. Etatakita. Why that one specifically?
It's fascinating. The thinking seems to be that withholding the Dhamma, the path to understanding and liberation, prevents others from finding the ultimate solution to suffering. Other kinds of stinginess might harm individuals, sure, but this one obstructs the deepest potential for well-being for potentially many people. It's like hiding the map.
That makes a lot of sense when you put it that way. Okay, and here's where you said it gets really interesting. These 5 aren't just like general bad habits. They're linked to deeper spiritual states.
Exactly. The texts, like the Jhana Suttas, explicitly say that abandoning these 5 avarices is crucial for attaining the jhanas. These are states of deep meditative absorption, really profound states of calm and insight.
Okay.
And it goes further. Other suttas, the ones dealing with the stages of enlightenment stream entry, once returner, and so on, right up to arahantship, they also identify these same 5 avarices as major barriers. You have to overcome them to progress on the path.
So getting rid of stinginess is key to both deep meditation and enlightenment itself.
Yes. And there's another layer. In some later texts, these Apara Suttas, the fifth avarice, Dhammacharya, stinginess with teachings, get swapped out.
Oh, what replaces it?
Something perhaps unexpected. Ungratefulness and unthankfulness. This lack of gratitude is also presented as a powerful barrier to both jhana and the stages of enlightenment.
Wow, ungratefulness. So the takeaway seems to be that overcoming clinging, whether it's to places, people, praise, knowledge, or even just forgetting to be grateful, is fundamental for any deep inner work. It's about letting go of these mental knots.
Precisely. It's about clearing the inner landscape.
Okay, so from that inner world, let's shift focus a bit. How do these lists of 5 apply to, say, leadership or positions of responsibility, ethical conduct in the world?
Well, there's a great example with the Vaggātireka. That's the person in charge of distributing food or provisions in a monastic setting. The Vaggātireka suttāni detail 5 qualities that make someone unfit for such a role. And acting with these qualities, the texts warn, leads to harm and even rebirth in, well, unpleasant states.
Yikes. Okay, what are these disqualifying traits?
They're mostly built around the 4 agatis, which means wrong ways or biases, plus a specific kind of incompetence. So number 1, going by desire or partiality, Chandagata basically, favoritism, making decisions based on who you like.
Right, cronyism, basically.
Pretty much. Second, going by hatred or ill will, dosaka kigachari, acting out of spite or resentment. Third, going by delusion, mohagatī, just being confused, ignorant, not understanding the situation when making decisions. Fourth, going by fear, letting intimidation or anxiety dictate your actions.
Okay, those 4 biases make sense. What's the 5th?
The 5th is not knowing what is assigned or allocated.
Essentially, incompetence in the specifics of the job. For the food distributor, not knowing what's supposed to be given out. For a treasurer, maybe not knowing what's secured versus what isn't. For a messenger, not knowing what message was actually sent. Just not being skilled at the task itself.
Competence matters, alongside integrity, absolutely. And conversely, the texts say that avoiding these 5, acting without bias, with clarity, courage, and knowing your job, makes you fit for the role, makes you wise, and leads to good outcomes, even rebirth in heavenly states. And this same pattern, these same 5 factors, they apply it again and again to different administrative roles in the monastery, assigning lodging, handling robes, managing resources.
So the core message here is pretty clear, isn't it? Impartiality, integrity, competence, these are crucial for anyone trusted with responsibility. The texts really draw a direct line between ethical leadership and its consequences, both immediate and, well, cosmic. It really makes you look at leadership today through that lens.
It's a timeless principle, really.
Definitely. Okay, let's broaden out again. We've talked about guides, inner obstacles, leadership. What about just baseline morality for everyone? Do the 5s cover that too?
They certainly do. This brings us to the probably most well-known list of 5, the 5 precepts. These appear in lots of suttas, like the Bhikkhu Sutta through Upasika Sutta. They're presented very directly as the fundamental guidelines for ethical conduct. Break them, the texts say, and you're heading towards negative states, towards niraya or hell. Keep them, and you're heading towards positive states, saga or heaven.
Right, the basic 5. Remind us what they are.
Sure. First, taking life, test by the Baiti. So refraining from killing or harming living beings. Second, taking what is not given, adinandai, refraining from stealing. Third, engaging in sexual misconduct, kamesu michikar for lay people, or abrahmakari, unchastity for monastics, basically improper sexual behavior.
Okay.
Fourth, speaking falsehoods, musavati, refraining from lying, deception. And fifth, indulging in intoxicants leading to heedlessness. So avoiding substances that cloud your judgment and lead to carelessness.
The foundational rules for living decently, essentially.
Exactly. But what's really interesting in these specific sources is that they don't just apply these precepts to Buddhists. They actually list various other contemporary ascetic groups, Ajivākas, Niganahas, Jalakas, all sorts of different philosophical schools back then, and say that if they engage in these same 5 negative actions, killing, stealing, etc., then they too end up in hell.
So it's presented as a universal moral law, not just Buddhist doctrine.
Precisely. The implication is that these ethical cause and effect relationships hold true regardless of your specific beliefs or philosophy. It's about the actions themselves and their inherent consequences.
That's a really powerful idea. It's not about belonging to the right club. It's about universal ethics. How we treat each other, how we act, that's the core of it.
It grounds morality in something fundamental to human experience.
Okay, so we've covered ideals, obstacles, leadership, and basic morality. Finally, do these texts give us tools, again in fives perhaps, for actively changing our minds? Moving beyond just avoiding bad stuff to actually cultivating the good.
Yes, absolutely. That's where the Vaggātireka section comes in. It uses this repetitive structure, the Pāla, almost like a formula. It systematically takes sets of 5 mental practices and applies them as antidotes to a whole range of mental defilements.
Like what kind of defilements?
Oh, all the big ones. Raga, greed or lust. Dosa, hatred or aversion. Moha, delusion or ignorance. But also more specific things like Koda, anger. Isanvi, Machariya, that avarice we talked about earlier. Mana, conceit. Pamada, heedlessness or carelessness. The list goes on. The repetition really drives home that these tools are broadly applicable.
Okay, so what are these sets of 5 antidotes?
There are 2 main types featured prominently. The first category involves cultivating 5 perceptions or notions, sanya. These are specific ways of looking at things, mental frameworks you develop. For instance, to counter lust, raga, you'd cultivate the perception of impurity or unattractiveness.
Yeah, contemplating the less glamorous aspects of the body.
Exactly. Or the perception of death, marakasanya, to counter clinging to life. The perception of danger or disadvantage, dinavasanya, in sensual pleasures. The perception of loathsomeness in food, haripalakasanya, to counter attachment to eating. And the perception of non-delight in the whole world, sabalokanabhiratasanya, a kind of radical disenchantment. There are others too, like perceiving impermanence, anikasanya, non-self, anatasanya, suffering, dukkasanya, abandoning, panasanya, and dispassion, vidagasanya.
So, actively changing your perspective as a practice. What's the second category of 5?
The second category focuses on developing the 5 spiritual faculties or powers, indriya or bala. These are inner strengths. First, faith or confidence. Sattva, primarily in the path and the possibility of awakening. Second, effort or energy, vidya, the persistence to practice. Third, mindfulness, sati, being present and aware. Fourth, concentration, samadhi, the ability to focus the mind. And fifth, wisdom or discernment, pañña, understanding things as they truly are.
The 5 powers. Okay, so these faculties, when developed, act as antidotes too.
Yes, cultivating these 5 strengths inherently weakens and helps eradicate those mental defilements like greed, hatred, and delusion. They empower the mind towards clarity and freedom.
It's really quite a practical toolkit, isn't it? You've got ways to reframe your thinking and inner strengths to build up. It feels very active.
It is. It emphasizes that transformation requires deliberate mental cultivation.
What an amazing tour through these lists of 5. We've gone from the pinnacle of spiritual mastery down into the weeds of our own stinginess and biases, across the foundations of universal ethics, and into these active practices for transforming the mind. It's quite a spectrum.
It really is. And that consistent use of 5 in the Agatar and Nikaya just provides this remarkably systematic way to approach it all. It makes these deep, complex ideas feel more structured, more accessible somehow, like mental scaffolding.
So, thinking about this for the listener, what's the big takeaway? It feels like the sheer consistency of these 5s touching leadership, ethics, personal growth, deep practice. It points to something fundamental about how these ancient teachers understood human nature and the path forward. It feels very enduring.
I think so. And perhaps a final thought to leave you with is this. Reflecting on all these different sets of 5 we've discussed, which one resonates most strongly with you right now? Is there a particular form of stinginess, macharya, that you recognize maybe needs loosening? A bias, agati, and how you make decisions that needs examining? Perhaps one of the 5 precepts feels shaky, or maybe it's one of the 5 perceptions or 5 faculties that feels like the next step to cultivating your own practice. The wisdom in these ancient lists isn't just historical curiosity. It's a direct invitation for ongoing self-reflection and growth, even today.